IT band.
Plantar fasciitis.
A little bit of plantar, a little bit on the front of the shin splints, lower back.
Well, you know, they say all the studies show that up to 60% of runners every year get injured enough to stop them from running at least 2 weeks a year. And the reason for the high injury rate in running, the injury rate that eventually stops people from running out, you know, the attrition rate after 50 years old is really steep in running. You don't see all that many post 50, 55-year-old
Roy knows
runners.
because he's 55, he's in a bike club, and 65% of the bikers are
Used to be runners, but they can't do it anymore. The reason that people get injured running is because when you're wearing running shoes, it encourages you to land on your heel. And that is not the way humans were meant to run. We're meant to run with a landing on the forefoot. But because of this heel, the body tends to, because of this big cushioning that's come up in the last 30 years when running has developed this big activity, the big cushioning kind of encourages the body to do what it wouldn't do normally. And that heel strike ends up causing a whole bunch of shock to go up your leg and affect your knee and hip. Now, there have been... It's not... Okay.
There it is.
Well, what happens is that studies in the last 10 years have come up because of this huge injury rate with running. People finally started studying running and coming up with alternative methods. And one of these, about 10 years ago, was called the pose method of running, which is a forefoot landing. And people and a famous running author, Dr. Timothy Noakes, who's got a big book on running, studied it and found out that when you land on your forefoot, you actually get up to 50% less impact going through your knees than you do when you're doing a heel strike in shoes.
Or a heel strike barefoot, but it's not comfortable to do it barefoot.
Yeah, I mean, naturally you would never land on your heel barefoot more than once. All right, and when you change the way your foot lands on the ground from a heel strike to a forefoot landing, the impact drops by up to half, and that has a huge ramifications for fewer injuries.
I thought you were going to say huge impact.
I know, I was about to say it, then I changed. All right, so you lose the shoes, you lose the heel strike automatically, and you have much less impact, and you get injured much less. Now, just this last year, this whole 50% number was wiped out.
Well, in fact, this was this year.
Did I say this last year?
Yeah, this
well,
is
that
this
includes
year.
this year.
This is
yeah,
the last
I was trying
year.
to be inclusive.
This current last year, yes.
While Ken and I were writing the book, I don't know if any of you have heard of the famous running professor, Dr. Daniel Lieberman of Harvard, who has gotten a lot of publicity lately for saying running is sort of built into humans.
We're evolved to run.
You know, that we humans ran down animals. We are designed to run. The way we're upright, our sweat glands, everything.
Long distance and heat and all sorts of conditions.
And he said, you know that 50% number that other researcher came up with that you've been using? He goes, I can do better than that. Because I started studying guys like Ken and other experienced barefooters, and I found out that after the guys who did that study that found out you have 50% less shock, well, the subjects were just beginner barefooters. They just took their shoes off that day. They didn't know how to do it. Once you learn how to do it, like Ken, you can actually reduce your impact to nothing.
There's a difference between what, people talk about, like, there's 6 times your body weight loaded on every step. Well, there's a difference between loading and impact. Well, first of all, mine was only 1.89 times my body weight, but that's partly because I'm fat.
Okay, you're confusing him, Ken.
That's true.
Just leave it at no impact.
Well, okay, the impact is that banging, jolting, jarring.
Now I said to Lieberman, I go, hey, how can there be no impact? That's crazy. There's got to be impact when you land on the ground. And he said, well, think of an airplane. Ken lands like his foot is an airplane. And when you're coming in on an airplane and it's so smooth, sometimes you can sleep right through the landing, right? There's literally no impact when that megaton airplane lands. So easily a 150-pound person can land with no impact once they learn how to land correctly.
Well, I can testify with watching Ken Bob this morning. There was virtually no impact.
Yeah, you see how smooth he is. So
your footprint.
I think I mentioned that to you when I was running with you.
So bottom line, if there's if you can run with little or no impact, you're not going to do any damage to any of the structures of your body. All right, and
so what did my footprint look like in the sand?
It was minimal impression. It was even. There was no sort of, as you said, no.
Because he almost didn't see it at first.
Yeah, I mean, I thought you were levitating.
And there was other ones that were like
that
they
really
were digging in with their toes.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is this: even if you just take your shoes off, and that day, that second you take your shoes off, you cut the amount of impact that you're putting into the ground by up to 50%. And once you learn how to run barefoot, meaning, you either read our book or you spend 20 years learning how to do it like Ken did, you can cut it down to nothing.
It helps to design a website and get a lot of information from other people or write a book.
Because you basically learn how to make sort of a perfect landing like an airplane. It's smooth. And so it took Ken 20 years. So for the next few minutes, we're going to kind of take you through a chronology of how he learned what he knows. Okay, you ready for a 50-year whirlwind?
We have the perfect in quotes because it's a continually improving process, and our body changes every year, every day. So that perfect landing actually varies in response to what you feel in the ground and in your feet.
But there are general rules that apply across the board to everybody.
Right.
Okay. All right. So here we're going to give you a quick whirlwind of how Ken came to know what he knows.
So now I get to take a vacation while he tells my story.
He was born in 1955, barefoot. And he was raised in lower Michigan with a bunch of fields and beautiful things, and he ran a lot of that barefoot. And he went barefoot longer than a lot of us do who are raised in a more urban environment. And like all gurus, Ken had sort of special qualities that pushed him in this direction. He had unusual sensitivity. As I was interviewing him for the book, I found out that Ken was, as a kid, could not handle the smell of coffee. It made him sick. The scent of tobacco smoke made him puke. Even beer. And you know what it's like for a teenager in lower Michigan not to drink beer and smoke cigarettes?
I had to eat lots of donuts to wash the taste out of my mouth so I could get drunk with my friends.
Then then disco era was upon him, and he found that his body was too sensitive to wear polyester. Made him itch really
I'm gonna have
bad.
to take these shorts off in about 10 minutes.
So when he went to disco dances, he had to wear kind of, all